June 2001, paper 1, question number 5 from the book, question number 1. Find the first three terms in the expansion in the ascending order. For ascending order, you must have x value in B. So that means you can see that we have 2 minus x to the power 6. This is your A and this becomes your B. So if we just open it down, this should be first value. The first term should be 60, 0. 2. This should be 6 minus 0, that is 6. And minus x to the power 0 plus 61, 2. 6 minus 1 will become 5 minus x to the power 1. And the third term will be 6c2, 2. This should be 6 minus 2 will become 4. And this should be minus x to the power square. So 6c0 is basically 1. And minus x to the power 0 is also 1. So 2 to the power 6 is 64. 6c1 will become 6. 2 to the power 5 will become 32. Minus x. So this should be negative because there is a negative power. So this is negative. 6 into 32 is 192x. Then you have 6c2. What is 6c2? 15. And 2 to the power 4 is 16. 15 into 16 is 240. And obviously minus x square will become x square. So your third term is x square in this. So the answer for part 1 is 64 minus 192x plus 240x square. Now in part 2, find the value of the constant a for which the coefficient of x, that means x to the power 1 coefficient is required. X to the power 1 coefficient is required. In the expansion of 1 plus ax, 2 minus x to the power 6 is 64. Now, obviously, x to the power 1 coefficient is not required. It is actually given. The answer is what? 64x to the power 1. That means the coefficient of x is basically given in the question. And the examiner wants you to find down the value of what? A. But can you see 1 plus ax? 2 minus x to the power 6. When this is expanded, the answer of coefficient of x you will get is 64. So can I say, I can see that there is 2 minus x. You have already solved in the first part. And you have solved it till x square. You have solved it till what? X square. So can I say 1 plus ax? If I just write down 64 minus 192x plus 240 x square in place of 2 minus x. The reason for that is because obviously when you will need to find out coefficient of x, the coefficient of x is already given here. And you can also see that when 1 will be multiplied by 64, you will get constant. But when 1 will be multiplied by 192, you will get what? You will get value with the coefficient of x. So can we do this thing that we can directly multiply? We can directly multiply and see. 1 into 64 is 64. But 1 into minus 192 will become what? Minus 192x. Which means, yes, there is a coefficient minus 192x. This is coefficient of what? X. Moving further, this 1 when multiplied by 240x square will become what? 240x square. Is this coefficient? No. So that means we will not be taking this value again. Then can we see ax? If multiplied by 64, you will get 64ax. So that means 64a is the coefficient of x. So we write it down, which means this is plus 64ax. We will continue doing it. Ax multiplied by minus 192. So can you see x and x multiplied? You'll get what? We do not need x square. Ax multiplied by x square will have? We do not need x cube. So obviously we will not be writing this. But can we say that the answer for both, if we had value of a, if we had value of A, the answer for this whole thing would have been 64x. The answer for the whole thing would have been 64, because in the question, in the expansion of 1 plus ax, 2 minus x to the power 6 is 64. 64 is basically the coefficient of what? X that is given in the part. If we continue this, 192 plus 64a, can I say x is equal to 64x? X and x is cancelled. So what are we left with? 64a is equal to 64 plus 192. 64a, 64 plus 192 is 156. A is equal to 156 upon 64. What is the value of A? 64. 156 divided by 64. Use calculator to find out value of A. 2.4375. This is 256. (64 plus 192 is 256. If we just correct it down, so that means 256 upon 64. Kitna hua? 4. So 4 will become your answer for what? Part 2 of question number 1.